Chapter 5, Plug and Chug. Number 23, calculate the resultant of the pair of velocities 100 kilometers per hour north and 75 kilometers per hour south. So when you're calculating the resultant, you're just basically adding the vectors together. And so one's going up, one's going down. If you do the head-to-tail method, you draw a line representing 100 up and then 75 down, and you're left 25 from where you started. So you end up with 25 kilometers per hour north. You could also treat it, since it's a one-dimensional problem, treat north as positive, and then it's just positive 100 plus negative 75, which is 25 in the positive direction, which we establish as north. The second part of that problem is calculate the resultant if both of the velocities are directed northward. If they're both directed northward, then you have a vector going up 100 and then an additional 75, so it's 175 kilometers per hour north. Number 24, calculate the magnitude of the resultant of a pair of 100 kilometer per hour velocity vectors that are at right angles to each other. So when you're adding vectors that are right angle to each other, so think head to tail, you have one going this way and one going that way, the resultant is the hypotenuse of that right triangle. And so you would find the magnitude of the resultant by using Pythagorean theorem. So in this case, it's the square root of 100 squared plus 100 squared, and you end up with about 141 kilometers per hour. Now, in class, we generally have talked about, and we've done it in newtons, we've done meters. Velocity is also a vector here, and so you would just add it. The process of the math is the same as when we're doing the other ones, just different units and different meaning at the end. 25, calculate the resultant of a horizontal vector with a magnitude of 4 units and a vertical vector with 3 units. So horizontal, vertical, or perpendicular, so we end up with what's called a 3, 4, 5 triangle. It's a Pythagorean triplet, because 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. The trick on this one is the units for this particular problem are units. So the resultant is 5 units. That's the magnitude of the resultant. The direction, you have to use some trig to get the direction. But if it is 4 horizontal and 3 vertical, that angle right there would be about 37 degrees. And that's just because I've done it enough. You can check it on a calculator. It would be the arctangent of 4/3. Arctangent of 3/4, or the arc cosine of 3/5, or the arc sine of, I keep getting my horizontal and vertical backwards, the arc sine of 3/5, or the arc cosine of 4/5. I'm feeling confident with that one. And number 26, what will be the speed of an airplane that flies normally at 200 kilometers per hour when it encounters an 80 kilometer per hour wind from the side? Again, we're adding 200 kilometers in one direction, 80 kilometers in the other direction. And so the resultant squared would be 200 squared plus 80 squared, whatever that ends up being. That is the speed. Because it's asking for a speed there, we don't have to worry about direction in the final answer. So that is the plug and chug from Chapter 5.